quiet elegance of her clothing reminiscent of ancient Greece. He hadn't been born then, but he'd seen the paintings kept in the angelic stronghold that was the refuge, seen, too, other angels who continued to dress in a way they considered far more regal than the clothing of modern times. None had looked like this, with her gown held up by simple clasps of gold at the shoulders and a thin braided rope of the same color around her waist. Nimrah could have been some ancient goddess. Beautiful. Powerful. Lethal. Noel, she said, and the sound of his name was touched with the whisper of an accent that was of this region, and yet held echoes of other places, other times. You will attend me. With that, she swept out of the room, her wings a rich deep brown shot with glittering streaks that echoed the color of her eyes. Arching over her shoulders and stroking down to caress the gleaming wood of the floor, those wings were the only things in his vision as he turned to follow. The exquisite shade of her wings spoke not of the cold viciousness of a dark court, but of the solid calm of the earth and the trees. That much, at least, wasn't false advertising. Nimrah's home was not what he'd been expecting. A sprawling and graceful old lady with soaring ceilings, situated on an extensive estate, about an hour out of New Orleans. It had a multitude of windows, as well as balconies ringing every level. Most had no railing, as befitted the home of a being with wings. The roof, too, had been built with an angel in mind. It sloped, but not at an acute angle, not enough to make it dangerous for landings. However, notwithstanding the beauty of the house, it was the gardens that made the place. Cascading with blooms both exotic and ordinary, and full of trees gnarled with age, alongside newly budding plants, those gardens whispered of peace, the kind of place where a broken man might sit, try to find himself again. Except, Noel thought, as he followed Nimrah up a flight of stairs, he was fairly certain that what he'd lost when he'd been ambushed and then debased until his face was unrecognizable, his body so much meat, was gone forever. Nimrah halted in front of a pair of large wooden doors, carved with a filigree of jasmine in bloom, shooting him an expectant look over her shoulder when he stopped behind her. "The doors," she said, with what he was certain was a thread of amusement in that voice, kissed by the music of the bayou. Taking care not to brush her wings, he walked around to pull one open. "I apologize." The words came out harsh, his throat unaccustomed to speech these days. "I'm not used to being a—" He cut himself off in mid-sentence, having no idea what to call himself. "Come." Nimrah continued to walk down the corridor, lined with windows that bathed the varnished floors in the molten, languid sunlight of this place that held both the bold, brazen beauty of New Orleans, as well as an older, quieter elegance. Each windowsill was set with earth-toned pots that overflowed with the most cheerful, unexpected bursts of color, pansies and wildflowers, daisies and chrysanthemums. Noel found himself fighting the desire to stroke their petals, feel the velvet softness against his skin. It was an unexpected urge, and it made him pull back, tug his shields even tighter around himself. He couldn't afford to be vulnerable here, in this court where he'd been sent to rot. It wasn't a stretch to believe that everyone was waiting for him to give up on life and complete what his attackers had begun. His jaw set in a brutal line, just as Nimrah spoke again. While her tone was rough silk, the kind that spoke of secrets in the bedroom and pleasure that could turn to pain, her words were pragmatic. "We will talk in my chambers." Those chambers lay beyond another set of wooden doors, these painted with images of exotic birds flitting through blossom-heavy trees. Feminine and pretty, there was nothing in the images that spoke of the hardness that was part of Nimrah's reputation. But if Noel knew one thing after his more than 2 centuries of existence, it was that any being who'd lived over half a millennium had long learned to hide what she didn't wish to show. His guard up, he walked in behind her, closing the painted doors quietly at his back. He didn't know what he'd expected, but it wasn't the graceful white furniture, scattered with jewel-toned cushions.